Welcome to English Grammar 2, Unit 52. Question tags. Do you, isn't it, etc. First of all, before we discuss question tags, we can think of questions in English in general. We can classify questions into two main kinds of questions. Direct questions, where we have yes or no questions answered by yes or no, and we have WH questions which start with WH question words such as where, when, why, who, which, and what, etc. For the questions in general, for example, we have here two main kinds of questions, and the third kind we can speak about question tags, questions used at the end of the sentence, or questions put at the end of the sentence. For the questions, as we have two kinds of questions, we can think of two kinds of verbs in sentences, main verbs and auxiliary verbs. If we have sentences which have auxiliary verb to form questions, we move the auxiliary verbs forward. For example, we move the auxiliary verbs forward. For example, Ali is at home. We can say, is Ali at home? We moved is forward before the subject, and we put a question mark at the end. And if to form WH question, we can say, and to ask about at home, we can say, where is Ali? We add the question word at the beginning, and we drop at home, and the question becomes like this: where is Ali? And the other kind of questions, we think of the main verb. When we have a main verb in the sentence, we use do, does, did, and in this case we speak about present simple and past simple. In the case of present simple, we can say, do you play football every day? If we say, I play football every day, the question will be, do you play football every day? And here we use do, and in case of singular subject, Ali plays football every day, we say, does Ali play football every day? Here we use does. And in the case of the past, we can say, Ali played football yesterday. And to form a question, we say, did Ali play football yesterday? And if we want to form WH question and we want to ask about yesterday, we say, when did Ali play football? We use when and drop yesterday, and the question becomes this way: when did Ali play football? And this is WH question. These are some examples about kinds of questions, and the answer will be yes, he did, no, he didn't, etc. And the third kind of a question here is a question tag or question tags, questions put at the end of the sentence after a comma, and then comes the question tag and the question mark. And here in this case, we speak about the question tag. If we have auxiliary verbs like verb to be or verb to have in the sentence, we use the auxiliary verbs in the question tag at the end, but we use the auxiliary verb before the subject and put a question mark. And the subject here is written using a pronoun. Using a pronoun. And when we have a main verb in the sentence, we need to use auxiliary verbs for the question tag, such as do, does, did. Do and does are used for present simple, and did is used for past simple. Then comes the question mark. Here we have in part A examples. Study these examples. You haven't seen Kate. You haven't seen Kate. You haven't seen Kate today. And we have comma. So we have here haven't is negative in the statement. So the question tag must be positive. We have comma. So and we use have you and the question mark. The answer comes from the other person. No, I am afraid not. The other example, it was a good film. And here was is an auxiliary verb in the statement and it is positive. So the question tag must be negative. So we say wasn't it. Wasn't it at the end, we put comma, then comes the question tag wasn't it. And the answer comes from the other person. Yes, it was great. Have you and wasn't it are question tags. They are called the question tags. Question tags here means many questions that we often put on the end of a sentence in spoken English. In question tags, we use an auxiliary verb. We use auxiliary verbs such as have, was, will, etc. We use do, does, did for the present and past simple because here we have main verbs in the present simple and the past simple. So we don't have here auxiliary verbs. So we need to bring and use do, does, and did. For example, Karen plays piano. Here the statement is positive plays. The verb is positive plays. So we use here does because present simple with s we use does. So and plays is positive, so we use does in the negative. So it becomes doesn't she, and we have comma, then doesn't she negative and the question mark. The answer comes well, yes, but not very well. You didn't lock the door. Here we have didn't lock is negative. And we have the auxiliary verb here didn't. So we need to put the auxiliary verb in the positive. So it becomes did you. At the end we have comma and then we say did you and the question mark. And the answer comes no, I forgot. Part B, Normally we use negative sentence, negative question tags after positive sentences. You know, here in the question tag, the complete question tag is formed of two parts. The first part is the sentence, the statement, then comma, then comes the question tag, then a question mark. When the statement is negative or when the statement is positive in the beginning of the question tag, when the statement is positive, we put negative question tag. When the statement is negative, we put positive question tag. They must be opposite to each other. Statement positive, question tag negative. Statement negative, question tag positive. Let's see the tables here. For the first part, we see here, normally we use a negative question tag after a positive sentence, means the statement or the sentence is positive, then comes the question tag is negative. Here we have in the table positive sentence plus negative tag. For example, Kate will be here soon. Will here is auxiliary verb and it is positive, so we need to put it in the negative. We have after soon, comma, then comes want she. We don't say want Kate, we say want she. We use a pronoun instead of Kate, so it becomes want she. Want here is negative. Will in the statement is positive and want is negative in the question tag. Then comes the question mark. The other example, there was a lot of traffic, comma. Here the statement was. We have here was an auxiliary verb and it is positive. So it must be negative in the question tag. So we have in the question tag here wasn't there. So it became negative in the question tag after the comma. Then comes the question mark at the end. Michael should pass the exam. Here we have should pass, and should is an auxiliary verb and it is positive, so it must be negative in the question tag. So we have comma after the exam, then comes shouldn't he, and here we use the negative should and we use the pronoun he to replace the name Michael. On the other side, or on the other hand, when the sentence is negative, the question tag is positive. For example, Kate won't be late. Here, the auxiliary verb want is negative, so we have comma after late, then we write will she. We use will in the positive and put a question mark after she, and we replace Kate by the pronoun she. They don't like us, comma. We have here the auxiliary verb don't is negative, so we use it positive in the question tag. So we have comma after us, and after the comma we use do they. We use here do as a positive auxiliary verb in the question tag. Then comes the question mark. The last example here in the table, you haven't got a car. We have here auxiliary verb haven't and it is negative, and then we have comma after car, then comes the question tag. We use have in the positive, have you, and the question mark. Notice the meaning of yes and no in answer to a negative sentence. Notice the meaning of yes and no in answer to a negative sentence. You are not going out today. We have here negative. We have here negative auxiliary verb in the sentence or statement. After today we have comma. Then the question comes positive. Are you? Then a question mark. What will be the answer? The answer will be yes means yes, I am going out, or no means I am not going out. Part C. The meaning of a question tag depends on how you say it. Means depends on the sound or in the intonation. If your voice goes down, we speak here about intonation. If your voice goes down, you are not really asking a question, you are only inviting the listener to agree with you. In this case, when the voice goes down, then you are inviting the listener to agree with you. You don't want any answer or information, just you want the person to agree with you. For example, it's a nice day, isn't it? The voice here goes down, isn't it? The other person says, yes, beautiful. Here, the other person agrees with the speaker. Example number 2. Tim doesn't look well today. Here, doesn't is negative. So the question tag becomes like this, comma. Does he? Here, the voice goes down. So the other person says, no, he looks very tired. Example number 3. She is very funny. She has got a great sense of humor. Here we have the verb has got. It is positive in this statement. So the question becomes, after the comma, hasn't she? And the voice goes down. And here the speaker doesn't wait for information, but he wants the other person to agree or not. But if the voice goes up, in the question tag, it is a real question. Then it is a real question, means the person is asking a question here and he wants certain information. For example, you haven't seen Lisa today, have you? No, I am afraid I haven't. The person is asking about a certain information. Have you by chance seen Lisa today? This is the meaning of the question. When the sound goes up, when the sound or the voice goes up, then it is a real question. Then the question tag is a real question. You can use a negative sentence plus positive tag, means negative statement plus comma plus positive tag, positive question tag, to ask for things, or to ask for information, or to ask somebody to do something. The voice goes up at the end of the tag in sentences like these. In this case, the voice goes up. For example, the first example, you haven't got a pen, have you? Yes, here you are. The other person says, yes, here you are, means the first person is asking to get something. He's asking to get a pen. The second example, you couldn't do me a favor, comma, couldn't here is negative, so the question tag is positive. Could you? So we say, you couldn't do me a favor, could you? The other person says, it depends what it is. He's asking for favor. He's asking somebody to do something. The person here is asking somebody to do something. The third example, you don't know where Karen is. Here, We have don't know is negative. So the question tag becomes do you. So it becomes this way. You don't know where Karen is, do you? The other person says, sorry, I have no idea. Here, the first speaker is asking about certain information. The last part here, D, part D. We have other examples, and you might think they are different in the way of forming the question tag. After let's, the question tag is shall we. Let's go for a walk. Shall we? Here, let's, it is something in the future and it is a kind of suggestion, and we might form the suggestion by shall we go for a walk? We might form direct question, shall we go for a walk? But here, that's why it is formed this way. When you say to somebody, let's go for a walk, when we use let's, you use in the question tag shall we, but we don't have negative here. Question tag. So we say shall we, and the voice goes up. After don't, the question tag is will you. If we think of don't means here order. If we think of order, means something is related to future. So we use will you because it is not expected. So we use will. It is immediate decision. That's why we use will. And here as well, we don't use negative. We use it in the positive. So don't be late. This is the statement, and the question tag will be will you. So it becomes don't be late, will you? The voice goes down here, will you? It is not a suggestion, it is a kind of order or command. The last example, after I am, the negative question tag is aren't I. Aren't I means or equals in meaning to am I not. This is the form. For example, we say I'm right, aren't I? The other person says yes, you are. If we look here at the statement, we have the auxiliary verb am. We have the auxiliary verb am, and it is positive. In the question tag, we have negative, but we don't use am, we use are, so it becomes aren't I. So the statement becomes this way, the question tag becomes this way. I'm right, I am right, aren't I? I am right, aren't I? We have I am right, the statement, comma, then comes the question tag, aren't I? Instead of am, we use are, so it becomes aren't I? Am is positive, so we use are in the negative, so it becomes aren't I? And the answer comes yes, you are, from the other person. That's all. Thank you.